So first of all, really quick, just again, an overview of the Enterworks PIM solution before we get into some of the key features. Just a reminder, the Enterworks solution enables companies to take data from any source, whether it's an ERP system, a spreadsheet, a portal, data pool, wherever it's coming from, collect it into a central data hub, validate the data, make sure that the data is performing from a data quality perspective, and then put it through a workflow that enables a company to enrich and continue to enhance the data. Once the data has been enriched and enhanced, it goes through typically an approval process. And after the data has been approved, then it can be used really for almost any purpose. Typically, you're going to see companies using data from the PIM for things like populating their websites or sending the data to channel partners so that they can sell their products on their websites, or maybe have it in a print catalog or in a mobile, some sort of mobile device. So that's, that's the Enterworks PIM solution, just at a very high level. Now, one of the great things about the Enterworks solution, and this is going to come up a lot when you're competing against a typical PIM competitor, is the Enterworks solution is more than just a PIM. We're really a multi-domain MDM, meaning that you can manage and master data from other domains other than product. So we refer to PIM as product domain, but you can also do the exact same thing that you would do with product with customer data or with material data, asset data, really any domain. So the benefit of that is not only can you use the Enterworks solution as a PIM, but also you can also then further leverage it, further use it down the line for managing customer data, location data, supplier data, etc. Anything, guys, to add to that in terms of just from a feature or benefit perspective?
No, I think that's good.
Good. So here are some of the key features. We're going to actually go through many of these, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these. As you'll find with many of our competitors, we each do, I'd say pretty much every PIM vendor is going to do at some level each one of these things. Some of us do certain ones of these better. Some of us have a few unique twists that the others don't do around some of these features. But in general, to be a PIM, you have to do all of these things. One of the key aspects of the PIM, and one of the neat things that people get just almost instantly when they implement the PIM, is for the very first time, as a company, you can go to one spot and pretty much see everything about a product. You can see the product specs, the images, the descriptions, usually things that are stored maybe in dozens of other systems have all been collected and now are available in this one spot called the PIM. A lot of our competitors, and we as well, will refer to that as a 360 degree view of product, meaning you can see every aspect of a product in one spot. Now, because we are, as I mentioned earlier, a multi-domain MDM, you also have the ability to see, if you implement it, the information about the customers who are purchasing this product, or the locations where this product is sold, or maybe the suppliers who provide this product to you if you're a distributor or retailer. So not only can you get a 360 degree view of the product, you also can get a lot more additional understanding with the Enterworks solution in some of these other aspects about the product itself. Any thoughts to that, Sanchit, Ross? Anything to add?
Yeah, and the only reason we are able to provide that single view of that product is because we don't store different domains in different systems. All these domains of data which are relating to products or by themselves, they're all in one single platform. Hence, maybe you may have locations, assets, suppliers, which may not still have any products. You still are able to get a 360-degree view of all your entities in one system. I think that's one of the benefits which we have as Enterworks platform, which others do not in the industry.
Good point. Thank you. Thanks. Let's go on. Another key feature of the Enterworks PIM solution is this idea of role-based UI. So when you log into the Enterworks solution, typically it's going to be customized to your particular role. So if you're a product manager, you may see certain features, functions, data based on your role as a product manager. If you're a product manager, maybe for a certain category. So in this case, maybe I'm the apparel category manager. I can customize the UI so that I only see apparel products, or I only see, product number and product name. Our customers have the ability to tailor the UI without programming, without any development, to a very specific role, or even down to the end user. So if you have an end user that needs even further refinement, they have further requirements in terms of what they need to be able to see in the solution, you can tailor that very easily as well. In fact, it's so easy to do that an end user can tailor the UI themselves just through a couple points and clicks in the system. Okay, Ross, your turn. Anything else to add to this?
Well, usually, Kerry, when you say it's so easy to use, you follow it up by saying even Ross can do it.
That's true. Say
that. But in this case, the role-based UI is something the other PIMs have, but it's surprising the times I've found companies that have a PIM and they never implemented the role-based UI. The vendor, really doesn't evangelize the total PIM concept. And the role-based UI is what's behind the concepts of the terms data governance, and it's also behind the term of data stewardship. Data governance perspective of maybe when a product is in the workflow being created for the very first time, you have certain users who actually have access to change certain attributes about that product. Once it changes in its state from being in creation to live and in production, the system might change them from being able to have access to change the data. It may be only able to read it. And that's an example of data governance and how the role-based UI drives it. In terms of data stewardship, it's where somebody may actually be responsible for some of the attributes about a product. Somebody is just responsible for pricing. Someone else is just responsible about search engine optimization metadata. And so these people are responsible for making sure those are populated and making sure they're always accurate, and they can actually profile just those attributes to make sure that they're doing their job right, and those attributes and data quality of them are continuously getting better over time.
Thank you. Sanchit, anything else?
No.
And then the other aspect of that is the system has to be easy to use. This tool is generally used by very, I'll call them unsophisticated business users. They're typically users that maybe don't have a lot of haven't spent a lot of time in computer systems, or maybe on the marketing team or in the graphics team, and they're looking for ease of use. Essentially, we have customers actually come to us and say, I want it to be like Facebook or something like that. Well, we're not as easy to use as Facebook, but we do have a really easy to use UI And in fact, you're looking here at one of the dashboards in our system, and the dashboard is really meant to do a lot of the work that would typically be done by an end user. It's telling them exactly what they should be working on. What are the products that need more, data cleansing, data cleanup. What are the things that they should focus on? And the UI itself is pretty. It's not something that you have to spend a lot of time learning how to use. A typical end user class for us is maybe 2 hours for a typical role. So it's pretty simple application to use. All of us as PIM vendors really focus in on UI as well, because it's going to be something that's going to come up a lot in the sales process. Sanchit's team does a really good job of making it look really easy to use during demos as well. So you'll see us emphasize that during the demo process. But this is an area that there's pretty fierce competition, I think, about who has the easiest to use system. So you're going to hear that a lot probably on a lot of these sales calls as well. Guys, anything to add to that?
Yeah. There might be other PIM softwares which may look much more shinier than ours, sure. But I think we are the one that has the most value. And the reason for that is because our dashboards are not just pretty pictures. I mean, you can actually click on them. It takes you through certain areas. The report you see on the dashboards, you can click on the reports, and it gives you an actionable work item to do, right? So it's not just for a pretty reporting purpose. Business users can actually use it. And I think that's what sets it apart from other platforms which have better looking reports and everything, but they're not of any use because you can't take actions on them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in fact, these dashboards can be created by the end user themselves as well, right? So they don't even need, typically they don't even need somebody to help them set up one of these dashboards. They can all do that themselves as well.
Even Ross, yeah.
Even Ross, did you say? Another really, and this is an important feature of the Enterworks solution and something that we usually like to tout a lot, and that is the ability for a customer to create what we call a data model. A data model are the business objects and the attributes that a customer is managing in the PIM, like a product or a product or an item or a family, and really customize the data model to their business versus some of our competitors will provide a data model that can be maybe manipulated and changed, but it never really fits their customer, that customer exactly. With the Enterworks solution, you can create a data model that is, again, very specific to your business requirements. And then as your business requirements change over time, it's really easy to go up into the system and continuously update the data model to reflect maybe your new requirements or changes in your business. So really, again, one of the really key features of the system. And the data model itself doesn't need to be updated by an IT person. It's all, again, done within the end user UI. You can update the data model without knowing anything about a database or database tables or fields or anything like that. It's all managed, again, through a pretty easy to use UI.
I think one of the most daunting things for data model changes is for a company that goes out and buys another company, like a nutritional shake company goes out and buys a nutritional bar, snack bar company, and they need to update the data model en masse. Or maybe a merchandiser who wants to change the apparel in their data model from spring to fall to summer to winter. These things can be done pretty easily in our solution, and actually pretty independently by the business.
Yeah, without a downtime. I mean, anything you change in the model shows up really real time in the UI as well. So there's no development time. If the business wants a new attribute, it can be done like in a matter of minutes. You don't have to wait for hours for somebody to code and do that. I mean, obviously there's testing time, but it's no development at all.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, those changes that you make in the data model can be instantly available as well. So that's fun to show in the demo, I'm sure. So another important feature of the Enterworks solution is the digital asset management component module that we provide, DAM for short. And it's our DAM. So most of the PIMs, almost all the PIMs have some sort of image management capability. Our image management feature, our DAM capability, is, I think, more robust than many of our competitors. It's not as robust as maybe a standalone third-party DAM, but it's probably 70 or 80% of what you would find in a typical standalone DAM. So it can do things like, manage not just images, but it can manage videos, audio, documents, really any sort of unstructured data can be managed in the DAM itself. It does some really kind of interesting things, like it will take your primary image and it will also create different variants of that image, so that that image can be used on your website or in your catalog, or maybe a channel partner like Amazon needs a certain type of image. You don't need to, as the end user or the company, manage each one of those variations. The system will automatically generate those images for you. I think the last time we looked at it, we studied it, around 70% of the Enterworks customers use the digital asset management as their primary DAM in their company as well. So while it's not maybe as complete as a standalone third-party DAM, it's pretty much included as part of the PIM solution. So many companies just choose to take advantage of that, and seem to like it a lot. Anything else? I know, Ross, you come out of this DAM imaging graphics world. What do you anything to add there?
You're saying I'm damn good at DAM.
Good.
So yeah, if you have people who do want to have more capability, there's the ability to automate the QC of an inbound image into the system to make sure that the pixel count meets the minimum standard. There's the ability to read the metadata in that image, extract it, and populate attributes within the PIM. You can auto-associate the image with the proper facing, the proper product or group of products. And then when you send it out and you resize it, as Carrie mentioned, you can even embed metadata that's unique to each recipient to help automate things like tracking asset usage and controlling media rights. So the discussion can actually get pretty deep. But if they're using a third-party DAM, we interface with Adobe AEM, we do interface with Whedon, MediaBank, really any DAM that's out there, we're able to integrate and make it, the master of the image while still having renditions of the image for viewership for the users within our PIM.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Anything to add, Sancha?
No, I think you guys covered it.
So another feature that's probably going to come up in every sales process is the concept of workflow. Whether it's managing the process that we talked about earlier in terms of collecting data from various sources and bringing it into the PIM, whether it's the process of sending it from department to department to enrich the content, whether it's sending data out to your third-party sales channels, that's all taking advantage of the built-in workflow capability that Enterworks provides. And if you're familiar with, which I'm sure most of you are, with the Evolve workflow, it's pretty similar from a feature and functionality perspective in terms of the types of things that you can do within the workflows itself. There's there are some differences. We won't get into that, but if you understand, obviously, if you understand Evolve workflow really well, you can think about the Enterworks workflow in a very similar light. The workflow can be configured and created through an end user UI similar to Evolve. We provide several off-the-shelf workflows as well that you can use to get started in case you don't want to go through the process of defining your own workflow. You can leverage one of the workflows that we provide. Anything else, guys, workflow-wise?
I would say it's a pretty robust platform, the workflow engine itself. And a fun fact is that it used to be a standalone software by itself many years ago. And even today, a lot of banks still use our workflow engine by itself to do a lot of like task routing for themselves. But yeah, from a feature standpoint, I think it can compete with any of the major workflow engines out there. And it's already pre-integrated with Enterworks platform, so there is no need for integration whatsoever. And it can also not only just have workflows within the platform, but also you can connect from Enterworks to a third-party software. Like, you can send information to an ERP system, to a DAM system, to a translation agency, to a supplier portal. Then the possibilities are endless. And all of this is all configuration, which is the most important part. Is everything that we do within the platform, including the workflow, is just a configuration, which is what I think we definitely need to keep the focus on.
Yeah, most companies, I think you'll find when you receive an RFP or you actually look at what they're going to do with the PIM itself, workflow will be a major component of what they need to do. It's always going to be one of the areas that they're going to look at the closest, probably, as well, in terms of, does it meet our requirements? And we typically do really well in the workflow area, and from a requirements capability perspective.
And when it comes to workflow, you'll hear it described in use cases like driving the create a new product process, editing an existing product process, retiring a product, or translation of a product for other countries.
Yep, those are good ones. Those will always come up. You're right. And then another feature that's really core to any PIM itself is the ability to manage the quality of the data in the PIM. So typically, when you implement a PIM solution, you're collecting this data from multiple sources. A lot of times, if you're not the manufacturer, maybe you're a distributor or retailer, you're collecting the data from third parties. And your job as the PIM is to collect and normalize and standardize the data that you're collecting from all of these sources and be able then to display it in a way that looks like it wasn't coming from 100 different places. And so the Enterworks solution has business rules and the ability to create business rules. We call validation rules, quality rules, to help a company standardize and normalize this data. If it doesn't meet the quality standards, so maybe there's data that's coming in, it doesn't meet a business rule, the Enterworks solution will still take that data and load it into the PIM, but it will then signal who's ever responsible for fixing that piece of data. It will send them some sort of message or alert or workflow to, hey, you need to fix this, and it won't then release that product into the PIM fully until that piece of data, that data meets your quality standards. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is a lot of times I'm having to share this data with my channel partners who have also many different types of different quality standards than I do. So when I'm sending my data out, I also can use this data quality aspect to make sure that the data is meeting their standards as well. And if it's not, use it to help me correct the data before I'm sending it out. Data quality. It's a big subject, guys. Anything to add to that? Nope. Okay. All right. Now, many times the reason somebody implements a PIM is because they want to sell more products. I mean, that's going to be the number one reason for implementing a PIM. I want to sell more products, whether it's on my website or if it's in a store or in my channel partners, wherever it is. So your ability to be able to merchandise the products in a way that helps customers, one, get more interested in your product, but two, also you have the ability to provide them with information in terms of what are the related products. So maybe, or the accessories, maybe I'm selling a lamp, what are the light bulbs that fit within this lamp, or the different shades that go on the lamp, or maybe there's a better lamp, so I can upsell them on a better lamp. All of these sort of merchandising relationships can be managed in the PIM itself. And then when you syndicate the data out to your website or your channel partners, you can send these merchandising relationships along with it so that they can take advantage of it as well. Did I miss anything?
So for companies that have a really, really high quantity of SKUs who really want to just blow out this merchandising relationship concept, you can have certain attribute values represent an automatic assignment of upsells, cross-sells, and associated items to make this manual effort more automated.
Yeah. Another useful feature or of use of this feature is the ability to create kits or bundles. So if I'm selling a collection of products and I want them to be bundled together, even though they're more than one SKU, I can use this feature to create a new SKU or a bundle of 3 different SKUs and create a whole new item that I'm selling together as part of this bundle. Same with bill of materials as well. All right. So the other, and this is a feature, but it's also really a differentiator as well, is the Enterworks solution has the unique ability to handle not just finished goods like we've been talking about the whole time, but also configurable products as well. Meaning if I'm in an industry where there are different options for a certain product. I'm selling a sofa, and that sofa has different fabrics and different colors and different pedestals, whatever, and I'm selling all those different options. I can use the Enterworks solution to manage the different options and manage the business rules in terms of which options work together. And then again, syndicate that to a configurator or to a website so that, so that the website can know, the business rules for configuration. Another use case of this as well is if I'm a company like a furniture retailer, and if I was going to create all of the permutations of every combination of options that I had, I would have millions and millions and millions of SKUs, and I'd have to be able to load that into my ERP system or wherever. With this configuration option, you can have the ability to create what we call virtual SKUs, which enables you or on-demand SKUs, which gives you the ability to only generate a SKU once it's really needed. So you're not, you're not having, like I said, multi-millions of SKUs in your system. You can just have the SKUs that are really being sold. Anything else on that, guys? Configuration?
Yeah,
No, I
I
think,
think
go ahead.
both manufacturers and retailers would need. Like the manufacturers probably have a product, a concept product, which comes in, let's take example, this t-shirt comes in 4 sizes, 4 colors. So they need to have those 16 combinations. But for a retailer, when they get the information from the supply, from the manufacturers, right, they get the SKU level information. And what we could do is we can also reverse this and bundle up all the SKUs and create a product from them. So a master product that has the SKUs. So it works both ways in terms of our configuration model is you can create SKUs from the product or you can create products from the SKUs. And both the ways there's inheritance. So that means anything changes on the master product, it goes down to the SKUs or vice versa. So it's a pretty powerful feature. And you'll come across this use case pretty much at, I would say, 95% of the customers, SKU explosion or product variations.
Right.
Yeah, and it is a real differentiator, right? I mean, wouldn't you say, compared to what our competitors can do?
I haven't seen this at other competition, to be honest. This would be more like writing codes and custom JavaScripts to be able to do such kind of thing. Where with our platform, it's a built-in feature. So I think it's definitely a huge difference.
Yeah. A lot of them will also talk about SKU implosion, and really they can't. It would be a code issue. But if you hear a company is making products that are made to order, this is something that is a sweet spot for us, whether we're managing just the components that go to the CPQ system or we actually act as the CPQ system. So certainly go after those because that's strong for us.
So, so a requirement or a feature that every PIM has, and this is something that you'll be asked about all the time, is this concept of hierarchies. And hierarchies are basically the ability to structure your data in a certain hierarchical manner. So, for instance, I want to be able to take all of my shoes and put them under the shoe category and all my jackets under the jacket category. That categorization scheme is called a hierarchy. And typically companies need multiple hierarchies. Maybe they need one category structure for the website, another one for, maybe it's another website in another market. Maybe they want one for a customer. Maybe they have a different one for their internal processes. So this ability to manage multiple hierarchies, the ability to manage the same product in multiple nodes in a hierarchy, you'll hear that a lot. That's another important feature of the Enterworks solution. And creating these hierarchies, I know for a long time, for a lot of our competitors, there was actually programming involved in creating a hierarchy, or it was very difficult to do. With the Enterworks solution, it's all drag and drop. You can just move, drag a product into a category, and it just automatically gets added into that category. So super easy to use. We usually get really high marks in our hierarchy management feature.
But when you talk to people, be thinking about who you're talking to, because if you're talking to an IT person, yeah, you can talk about nodes and hierarchies. If you're talking to a channel manager within e-commerce or somewhere, try to ask them how they describe grouping products from their master catalog to then go to a particular channel and try to adopt their vernacular, because otherwise you lose your audience.
Did I just lose you, Ross?
Yeah.
And then another important aspect of pretty much every PIM, I mean, you have to these days have this feature called taxonomy if you're in the PIM space. Some of us have more robust taxonomy features. I would say Enterworks probably is in the upper 10 or 20% in terms of our ability to manage taxonomies, but everybody has some level of taxonomy. And what a taxonomy does is really a special type of hierarchy that enables you to create a classification scheme. So I'm going to get really technical here for Ross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And create then what we call category attributes for each one of those categories. So what that means is when I'm an end user and I am working on a product that has been placed in a taxonomy, so I'm taking shoes and the shoes is in the shoe category. In the taxonomy itself, I'm going to say, what are the attributes that are needed to be completed for shoes? I'm going to define that in the taxonomy. I'm going to define another set of attributes for shirts. Another set of attributes for power drills. So the system actually uses the taxonomy to figure out what should I be displaying on the screen for the end user? What should I be asking them to enter into the PIM? And then also it could be used to also decide what should I be sending out to a channel, because if I'm sending a shoe product, I don't want to be also sending attributes to my retailers that don't make sense for the shoe category. So the taxonomy is an easy way of controlling category attributes in the PIM itself. Okay, simplify that, guys.
Taxonomy, it's pretty simple actually. If you're not confused and you don't get it, you have to be confused to be able to get it right. So a taxonomy is a means of categorization, or a classification, right? A shoe is a shoe, a shirt is a shirt, and a power drill is a power drill. Based on the classification, I define the attribution, but then the hierarchy is just a way of organization. So I may have a shoe and a shirt, which both could live under men's lookbook under a single node because they both go together. But that doesn't change the properties of that shoe or that shirt. Their property would be as per their classification in the taxonomy. So that's the difference between the two. It's a special type of hierarchy, if you will, but more taxonomy would be mostly used for internal purposes only, and hierarchy would be more, customer facing. So when we go online and shop, we pretty much are looking at a hierarchy from a PIM perspective and not a taxonomy. But when somebody internally talks about the classification, they may be talking about a taxonomy. Again, as Ross said, these terms are interchangeable at companies. They may say one thing, but they may mean completely the opposite thing. So always good to check with what that means for them and, change your language accordingly.
Yeah, I guess the good news too is most of the time we're not educating people on what a taxonomy and hierarchy is, because typically because this is a feature that every PIM has, they're looking for a solution that has a taxonomy feature or a hierarchy feature. We may have to talk about how we do it and what the differences are and whatnot. But these days anyways, it's less about education about what it is, and then instead it's more about how it works, I would say. When Ross was much younger selling PIMs in the old days, he had to educate everybody what a taxonomy was, but I think that's probably becoming less and less.
Yep.
Another feature that especially that's important, especially if you're working with manufacturers, is the ability to syndicate data to a channel partner like an Amazon or Target or Home Depot. Basically, what a syndication is it's an export of data that's been put in a format that the retailer wants it in. So Amazon wants their data from their customers or their suppliers in a very specific way. So does Target, so does Home Depot, so does Kroger. And they're all going to be asking for their data in different ways, different formats, different attributes. So the syndication capability within the Enable solution helps you create these different file formats very simply, export the data, and get it out to the retailer. Anything to add, guys, to that?
The importance with that unique file format for each one of those people is so that they can repurpose it and get it on their digital channels without any manual effort on their part. And we do that in a lot of different ways, whether it's self-serve and use our standard functionality, or we also have a service where we'll deliver that content guaranteed for our customer. and they don't have to worry about it. We have partner relationships where we can then assess and judge the effectiveness of that content on the retailer site, as well as making sure the retailer is presenting the most up-to-date syndication file that you sent them. So we have a full process from beginning to end to then perfect the content.
Right. Yeah. And we have a few competitors who just focus on syndication. It's that important to manufacturers. And so their functionality, their features have really been built around just doing syndication. They may have some PIM features, but their focus is on syndication. We're kind of the opposite. We really focus on data management, and we have, pretty good syndication features. And I don't want to be short selling this. We have good syndication features, but we're not, it's not the only thing that we do, where some of our competitors, they just focus on syndication. We offer different options, and I'm not going to touch on this too much because Ross just did, but from a syndication perspective, we have something called Enterworks DIY, which gives their customers the ability to manage the exports themselves, create the templates themselves, create the exports themselves, and do it within our UI. We have the fully managed service where we're leveraging a third party to manage these exports and these templates so that the end customer doesn't need to. And the reason that's important is the Amazons of the world and the Krogers of the world are constantly changing their requirements. And so if you're using our DIY solution, you have to make those changes yourself. If you're using the fully managed solution, we're going to make sure that those changes get reflected in the templates automatically. And then thirdly, you'll hear this a lot if you're in food or CPG, is this concept of GDSN. And GDSN is basically a data standard that has been created in the CPG and food industry so that companies can share data in a way that isn't customized, so that everybody is sharing the same attributes and the same file formats. It just makes it a lot easier to do. The problem with GDSN is one, typically not all the information that a company needs is stored within GDSN. So you have to not just do GDSN, you also have to do one of these two other things to supplement the data. And two, there's a lot of politics in the world of GDSN, and some people, it just becomes, it can become complicated for certain companies to manage. So we offer all three. Sometimes customers will enable, we'll implement two of the three versions. We have some customers that have implemented all three. It really just depends on the customer's requirements in terms of what they need.
But in terms of which subject to talk about, if you're talking to a retailer, it's brick and mortar, it's going to be GDSN most frequently. If you're talking to a department that's e-commerce, digital channels, it's going to be a custom file, the other two options most frequently.
Another thing that Enterworks does really well is publish. Give the customers the ability to publish the data that's stored in PIM into catalogs and marketing materials through an automated process. So, typically a lot of times we're going to work with customers that have very large print catalogs, for instance. They could take up to 9 months to a year to create a catalog every year. They're basically cutting and pasting information from multiple places and creating a print catalog. It's really a laborious process. With the Enterworks solution, we're connected. We actually connect the PIM to the desktop publishing tool and automate the creation of the catalog pages. So we can, in some cases, we've reduced that 9-month process to create a manual catalog to under a month, to well under a month, to maybe a couple of weeks. So really popular feature. especially for those companies that create catalogs. And I think we're pretty well differentiated in this area as well. It's I think that we hear that Enterworks is one of the better solutions for creating these print catalogs.
And I think that you have to be careful how you approach that subject with people, because if you say print, they'll go, no, we don't print. We don't do any print. But if you say, well, do you create, digital literature like sell sheets that might be distributed from your website, or price books or specification books? Oh yeah, PDFs. Yeah, we do a lot of that. So you could approach it both ways.
We also sell a module called the Sales and Service Portal, which is a self-service portal really intended for either salespeople like Ross, or maybe somebody that's working in a support or service function, so that they can access the data that's stored in PIM, but do it in a way that's much simpler than going through a PIM. So the PIM, of course, has a bunch of features and functions for managing data, for editing data. The Sales and Service Portal is almost like a website. It gives you the ability to quickly find and locate the information that you need. You can actually use it then to create a custom catalog PDF for your end user right from the system. But it's, again, meant for a salesperson who's going out, calling on a customer, needs access to the products that he's going to be talking about or she's going to be talking about on that sales call, and have access to it without going through the PIM itself.
Yeah, it uses the approved content from the PIM and also can generate documents. Like if you want to generate a PDF of a few products to give it to your customer as you're speaking with them, this would be one of the use cases for using the Sales and Service Portal on the fly.
And earlier we talked about syndication. You really probably, your clients probably only want to mess with doing custom file syndication to their largest customers. But what do you do about the medium and smaller customers who want data for their digital channels? This is a great way to allow those companies to go and log on to the portal, see only what you've provided by that logon, and be able to pull down an Excel spreadsheet of content about products and pull down information as digital assets to then populate their own websites and mobile sites.
Yeah, we sell a lot of these, right? Because it's a real differentiator. We win deals because of the sales portal a lot of times.
Usually with manufacturers, yeah.
And then another portal we offer, which is also, again, very popular, is what we call the vendor portal or supplier portal. And the supplier vendor portal enables a customer, typically in this case, in the vendor portal case, it's going to be a distributor or retailer, to include their suppliers in the process of supplying and creating this content, product content that they need. So the supplier themselves can actually get into the portal, load their products into the portal, either through a template or through keying them in or through other various means, and then make those products available to their customer, who's the distributor or retailer, so that they can include them in their product assortments and catalogs and websites. Over the years, if you're a distributor or a retailer, vendor portal, supplier portal is going to be one of the primary reasons you're going to be purchasing a PIM. Anything else to add to that? I know, Ross, you sell a lot of vendor portals. What did I miss?
I think what I talk to companies about is, how are you getting that data from your suppliers today? And typically they're receiving spreadsheets. The spreadsheet is in the data model and the list of values that the supplier keeps it in their system. When they go and they bring this data into the portal, it requires them to wrap their brain around the way your data model is, use your list of values, and use things that your employees were having to manually change when those spreadsheets were provided, now are being changed for you by your supplier. You can also give the supplier stewardship over some of the data attributes to manage ongoing. So as things might change, a metal thickness from 12 gauge to 14 gauge, they could be responsible to go into the portal and actually update it themselves if you've given them stewardship over that attribute.
And then one of our newer features we're actually just releasing, we're actually leveraging the Wind Shuttle IP around Studio to provide a similar capability for the Enterworks solution. So we call this Smart Template Pro. Again, think of Studio for SAP. This is our Studio for Enterworks. It's just a plugin into Excel that enables a customer to edit and manage data from the Enterworks PIM in Excel, validate it within Excel, and then upload it back into Excel. So if you're familiar with the features of Studio, you'd be super familiar with the features of Smart Template Pro as well. This, as I mentioned, we're actually just getting ready to release this product this month, actually. And it's been something that has been high on most of our prospects and customers list as a feature function. So we're really excited about getting this out in the market. Anything to add to that, guys?
I'm going to wait for Sanchit this time. No? I think in our industry, a lot of our clients and companies that use a PIM want to be able to distribute an Excel spreadsheet by email like the old days. The problem is you lose the stewardship over the data, the governance over who can see what, who can change what. It's a free-for-all by the time the spreadsheet comes back to you. And the system's auditing trail only sees who brought it out and who put it back in. So you lose visibility. With Smart Template Pro, it's just so good because you've got all of the auditing capabilities of who changed what and all of the governance properties of who can see what and who can change what. So this is going to be great, very popular when we get it out to our marketplace. Our existing customers are going to go for it.
Another key feature is the ability to really control the information that end users have access to. So maybe you can see a product like a shoe, but you're not allowed to, as a certain type of end user, maybe you're not allowed to see the cost or other certain attributes. With the Enterworks solution, you can control what a end user sees all the way down to the attribute level. And then we also provide you then the ability to monitor and audit exactly what somebody saw, what somebody did in the Enterworks solution. And if they did something that you didn't approve, maybe they accidentally deleted a bunch of products, you have the ability to roll back those mistakes, if you will, to a previous version and get the system back to a good state again. So again, this is something that all of us do to a certain level. I'd say the Enterworks solution is probably stronger than most around this access control and data ownership area. But I kind of spoke ahead a little bit. So the other aspect of that is this, again, this ability to what we call version the data and then roll back the data. So essentially every time somebody makes a change in the Enterworks PIM, we're creating a new version of the data. So within the solution itself, you can compare all of the previous versions, see what's changed. So if I want to see what's changed from the current version of the data to 6 versions back, I can do that within the Enterworks solution. If I need to, I can actually roll back the state of that product record to that previous version just through a point and click operation.
It's pretty powerful because it tracks every action by the user. So even if something was done by accident, it can be reverted. So we don't overwrite the values. So let's say I made a change, didn't like it, I can roll back to the previous value, that doesn't delete the versions in between. It creates a new revision of it. So as Kerry said, it creates new versions of the same product, same record. And all this, a lot of times, our customers actually use this to export out of the system and feed this information into a reporting platform. And then they can do a performance scorecard on their employees. Is, oh, this person is making these many changes in the system, or this product, went from being in the initial phases to a release phase from, with 100 changes in this timeline. So it's a pretty powerful feature, can be used in a lot of variety of ways as you would like it to be.
Another area, it's not really a feature, but I included it in the feature capability. It's really a differentiator, I guess, but is our ability to scale. So Enterworks works with customers that have as few as 500 products. We work with other customers that have millions and millions of products. I don't know what the largest implementation these days, but it's, over 100 million items in the system. So the ability to handle this much data, there are just very few products out in the marketplace who can do that. So we get, again, high marks for that. And the reason is we have a really interesting architecture, which I'm not going to get into, and that gives us the ability to handle these very large data sets and these very large volumes. But it's just it's something that we all like to talk about a lot, because we know our competitors, a lot of them choke when they get too much data. And then, of course, in the world of cloud and the world of digital, security is now a huge issue. We have a very good security story as well. Of course, Windshuttle's ISO 27001 certified, which everybody will ask for these days for that certification. But we also do a lot of the other must-haves around security in terms of access control, SAML, you'll hear that a lot. Different types of authentication, encryption, all of that good stuff. And then pretty much every single implementation, every single sales process that you're going to work on, integration is going to come up. I don't think there's ever been a PIM implementation in the history of Enterworks that didn't have at least one integration, whether it's with the ERP system or with the website or whatever it is. Typically, we're going to see in any given implementation probably at least 5 integrations, maybe more. So our ability to easily integrate with different types of systems is not just nice to have. I mean, it's really a must-have in the PIM world. We do it really nicely. We have a really good story, again, around integration and our ability to integrate in multiple ways, so that, depending on the requirements of a particular system itself, we can give customers different options in terms of how to integrate. And then we also are doing more and more in terms of providing off-the-shelf, what we're calling connectors, to some of the more popular systems out there, so that a customer, when they're doing an integration with SAP, for instance, isn't having to create the integration from scratch. We're basically providing them a connector or a framework so that they can more easily integrate with some of these third-party systems. This is an area, again, that we're spending a lot more energy in terms of creating more of these type of adapters. But I think from what I've seen out there, we have a pretty good story around this. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but it's a good story and getting better all the time.
I would definitely agree with it. There will be some prospects that will camp out on you first, before you get the next step, to say whether or not you have experience, a connector, customers live integrated with their ERP or their e-commerce platform or other technologies like their PLM. And you got to be pretty quick to reach out to Sumit or I, and we'll give you examples of like companies, hopefully, that are already integrated with those solutions so that they can take the brakes off and keep going.
And then lastly, in this integration area, a lot of times you're going to hear this concept called a golden record. So what customers are going to want to do is they're taking this data, as I mentioned earlier, from multiple sources. But the objective is they still want to have only one record. So if I'm getting data about a particular product from 5 different sources, I don't want to have 5 different instances of that product record in my PIM. I want one record with all of the best data from all these different sources. We call that, essentially, we call that golden record or golden record management. The process for doing that is called matching and merging. So Enterworks comes with this matching and merging engine, ETL engine, that enables you to create business rules that say, okay, when you see data coming in from multiple sources that could be for the same product, this is what to do. And it will try to identify that for you. And then based on your rules, it will try to merge that information for you in that one single golden record, and then give you the ability to then use that record in different various ways. Probably a lot more we could talk about that subject, but anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Sure. I mean, this is a great feature. It's called the Fusion module. You may not hear a lot about this in the PIM use cases. I mean, more customers are getting smarter so that they're asking for it, but traditionally PIM doesn't have match and merge. But now people are asking, and there's a thin line between MDM and PIM, and this is where it sits in the MDM domain for the most part. But the lines are blurring, and people are going to ask you more and more about this. So don't be surprised if people ask match and merge in a PIM use case, because it's pretty valid, and it's a pretty valid use case, but nobody does that today.